Good afternoon. I'm Francisca Sena Agbonega, and my first video on my presentation talks about poverty in the UK. Slide 1. My presentation today is about understanding poverty in the UK. I will be assessing various definitions of poverty, major theoretical explanations, and the way in which poverty has changed in Britain in the course of time. The presentation shall also evaluate how historical events have affected the level of poverty and the perception of the people about poverty in the UK. My second slide is going to talk, it's also looking at poverty as a controversial and multi-dimensional notion. It is not merely a matter of do or do not earn a lot of money, but everything to do with living standard and the capability to be fully involved in society. The definition of poverty is important because it determines the way government measures poverty and the policies to be adopted. Due to ALCOG, various definitions of poverty result in quite different policies. That is, welfare assistance and behavior intervention. Slide 3 is going to talk about absolute poverty. Absolute poverty is that which cannot afford basic physical needs like food, shelter, and clothing. It tends to be gauged using fixed interest levels, which do not change with time. This definition comes in handy to point out gross deprivation and abject poverty. Nevertheless, in wealthy communities such as the UK, the usefulness of absolute poverty is constrained due to the fact that it does not capture reduced living standards and social standards, as pointed out by Giddens. Slide 4, which talks about relative poverty. Relative poverty can be described as having a minimum income of less than 60% of the median household income. This definition is inequitable and equates the living standard of people with those of the rest of the society. The UK government uses the primary measure. The main weakness of that, even with the general increase in wealth, poverty may still exist since it emphasizes relative variations instead of mere survival. Slide 5, which looks at social or conceptual poverty. Social or conceptual poverty emphasizes the deprivation of things and activities that are viewed as normal in society. This model focuses on inclusion, dignity, and quality of life as opposed to income. Downside puts forward that humanity is poor because it is unable to engage in the usual social activities. Though this method is important in emphasizing social exclusion and stigma, it has been criticized as subjective and culturally inclined. Slide 6, which talks about social structural explanation of poverty. Structural explanation of poverty holds that economic and social structures are the cause of poverty and not individual weaknesses. Low wages, unemployment, high housing costs, and inequality are the main factors, and federal evidence highly endorses this approach and is useful in explaining why some groups are invariably more prone to poverty. According to Alcock, structural explanations are the most justifiable since they are based on the issue of inequality and not individual facts. Slide 7. Cultural explanation of poverty. The traditions and cultural explanation attributes poverty to values, attitude, and norms that are common in the underprivileged groups. The thesis of the culture and poverty implies that poverty is intergenerational because it is based on acquired behaviors. Although this method tries to explain long-term disadvantages, it has come under serious criticisms. There have been charges against Moray and others, taking sides with the victims of and ignoring broader structural inequality. Slide 8. Talk about individual explanation of poverty. Personal explanations are on personal responsibilities and behaviors. This highlights issues like education, skills, and health and lifestyle decisions. The method focuses on agency and choice. Critics, however, believe that it disregards structural constraints and supports negative stereotypes about individuals who live in poverty, according to Giddens. Slide 9. Evaluation of poverty in Britain. The change in poverty in Britain has evolved greatly over the last century. Poverty was abject. The state's welfare was minimal before 1945. The establishment of the welfare states after the Second World War made poverty a much less pressing issue and made it a community affair. Since 1980s, industrialization, more inequality, and in-work poverty have led to a renowned rise in poverty, as Louis explained. Slide 10. Key historical events, perceptions, and conclusions. The most important historical event contributed significantly to the poverty level and the attitude of people. The Great Depression resulted in extensive unemployment and misery. The welfare state alleviated poverty and changed the views of society towards social responsibilities. However, as of late, the 2008 financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic revealed the degree of working poverty and food bank dependency. To conclude, the issue of poverty is multifaceted and culturally created. The most applicable definition that can be used to understand poverty in the UK today is the relative definition and the social definition. Poverty within the population can only be explained by structural reasons and historical events still influence not only the root of poverty but also the attitude of the population. Thank you. I think my presentation has come to an end. Thank you.